And we're live. I'll let Brian, maybe if you want to let me know when everything's up. So we're live streaming to the candidates with the contract Facebook page. And I'm also going to share this out personally because I have a lot of extended family in Michigan. Kind of all over, all over, Colleen. So I thought, hopefully some people will tune in. All right. Just make sure we're up.
Yeah, I taught with Colleen for about 10 years.
Wow, that's so funny.
Awesome.
I know, that was so funny. I looked down and saw her name and thought, well, odd. Okay. All right, so I think, oops, we're having just a moment issue with connecting on the Facebook page. Just 1 second.
It's not on Facebook just yet.
Yep, it'll be, I got it.
Okay.
We're high tech here.
I'm a Luddite, so.
Okay. Well.
Be gentle.
Gotcha. Okay, this will take me just a sec. Well, I always joke, Brian, sorry you have to hear my same old jokes all the time, that we don't have Wolf Blitzer's wall of stuff and all the graphics, that the big networks have. So we're kind of doing this on a shoestring, but it works.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Until, Facebook shuts us down or something. All right. Let's see what our candidates. Michigan and. All right.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Craig.
All right. Okay. Sorry, over here. All right. Try that again. Okay, tech support, if you're there. I know we're live on YouTube, or on Twitter, but I may need to restart the OBS software.
It's not working for Facebook?
No, we had this problem once before. It'll be fine. We just need to end and restart.
What if I do this? What if I share it?
No, it's just not. We need to restart OBS, I believe. That's all. It should be fine.
Hey, Kate. Get the dog.
Okay, here we go. Now we're going. Sometimes Facebook has little hiccups. That's about the best I can explain it. So, okay, I believe we are live now. Just wait and make sure get confirmation on that. Or do you see us on Twitter and on the CWAC Facebook page?
We are on the CWAC Facebook page.
Great.
Twitter. And it looks like we're on, Twitter and YouTube. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm just going to share this out to my own personal page. And if you guys want to just start by just introducing yourself one by one, well, I'll start with this actually. So these are all candidates with a contract candidates, all in Michigan. And candidates with a contract is basically an anti-corruption contract. You can go to the Facebook page, go to the website, and so I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourselves. Do you want to start, Mark?
Yes, my name is Mark Bignell. I'm running for state senate, seat 33 out here in Michigan. And I guess I'll pass it on to the next person that wants to introduce themselves.
Craig?
Yep, my name is Craig Beach. I am running for the state senate seat for the 28th district. I'm a retired teacher, and unfortunately, the state of Michigan is rated last in the United States in transparency and accountability, which is one of the reasons that drew me here and into the race. So, Craig Beach.
Right, and David?
Hi, my name is Dave Banak. I'm running for the 6th district, Michigan's Congressional District 6, southwest corner of the state, 6 counties down here. For me, the biggest issues in the race are the progressive triumvirate. It is going to be single-payer universal health care, tuition-free public education from pre-K through college, and pushing back against the corporate corruption. And that's why Candidates with a Contract is such a great organization.
Thank you. Yes, so I was looking at specifically at your district, Michigan 6, and it's one of those that believe it was like, plus for Republican. It's been kind of really split. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you know about that, just your feelings on, what you're up against in your race there, and how you're appealing to voters in that district as a Democrat?
So it's a district that is consistently seen as being a Republican stronghold because the incumbent has been there this will be 32 years at the end of this term, and he hasn't really been challenged in any of his re-elections in the past 3 decades. But it's a district that when you look at every single other race, the state house, state senate, the votes for U.S. Senate, votes for governor, votes for president, the district swings pretty frequently. So it's not the Republican stronghold that we've thought. And then for me, one of the things that gives me a lot of hope in this race is that when we look back to 2016 in the primaries, slipped there in a way that I wish was real. Senator Sanders, when he was running, he got the highest percentage of victory in the primary in this congressional district that he did in any district in Michigan. So the votes are definitely there. And it's a district that voted for Obama in 2008 before voting for Trump in 2016. And that's a big part of how I'm appealing to voters, like you said, as a Democrat, is this is a district that is really interested in populist policies that are anti-establishment and that are promising real hope and real change. And that's the take that I'm using here. And it's really gained a lot of traction. People are really, truly looking for somebody who's speaking honestly and is speaking authentically, and that's what I found has been working.
Right. It's very interesting. I always go to the New York Times actually has some great maps, for the primaries and for previous presidential elections in full color, where you can go in and look and see. And I mean, there was a lot of support actually. I believe so. Your district, 6th district, had all but one county, Berrien County, went to Hillary, but it was, not by a whole lot. And the other counties were for Bernie. So that's very interesting to see.
So I know the votes are here. And the thing I always go back to is that the progressive movement, as we know it, started in the plains. It started in Kansas and Nebraska and in Wisconsin. It started by farmers. So those votes will come back to Democrats if we start really running on solid progressive ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you want to speak any about your opponents there in your district, or what just can contrast?
Yeah, so the opponents, it's one of the things that I think has really helped me in this race is I tell all my volunteers, and we have a huge volunteer base. We got like 450 people helping out. And I tell them that we have to be aggressively positive, because I really want to give voters something to vote for rather than something to vote against. So, yeah, what I'll say about my competitors, they are good individuals. They have the best of intentions. One is a business first moderate, and I really just don't think that that is gaining traction. It's not where we need to be. The other is somebody who's got DCCC backing, and we saw, what kind of a negative that can bring to the race. And he's somebody who just, he's a nice enough guy who just doesn't run on any real issues, just Pierce problems.
Right.
And then the third, I do have some objectives with the last person, in that, he's a corporate lobbyist who's been donating money to the Republican incumbent in every one of his reelection campaigns for the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you do look at the presidential election, though, Trump won pretty solidly there in your district, although not huge margins. But do you find you're able to, I don't know, I think a lot of that was it was populism won in 2016.
Right.
Do you feel you're able to reach out to those people too that may have voted Trump and kind of might have a negative view of the Democratic Party right now? Do you feel like you can reach out to those people as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of Obama Trump voters in this district. In 2008, Obama was running on hope and change. And in the most recent election in 2016, there are a lot of people who saw in Trump somebody who was saying the system is broken and you are the person who's paying the price for that. And some people saw this guy is talking to the problems I see in my daily life. And we're winning a lot of those voters back, because we don't consider anybody to be a lost cause. And I don't blame anyone for their vote. I disagree with their vote strongly, but I don't blame them for that. And I don't hold them, I don't shame them because they voted the way that I think that they shouldn't have. We need all those people to feel like they can come back. We need to give those people something that they can believe in. And if we go out there and say, and that's really, to me, one of the most significant things about how I'm approaching this race is all the Democrats in the race recognize the same problems, but I'm presenting solutions. I've got policy statements on my website say, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's how I can make it happen. And so people see that and they know I have a concrete plan, and they appreciate that I'm actually putting something there, something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. And I think, we've got more and more people that really are not wanting to identify strongly with one party or the other. And they really are just listening for people who have those solutions. Mm-hmm. So Craig, did you want to jump in here at all and talk a bit about your, I know you guys are running for state Senate, so it's a little different. And candidates with a contract does have state contracts, can check that out. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you hear just on the ground, like from real people?
Right. I want to echo what Dave had said, in that I hope that my campaign offers hope and offers choices for people in the 28th district. I always, when I go to talks, I start by making a little joke. I know that it's a Herculean task. The 28th district is strongly Republican, but again, echoing David, I think if I can get my positive message out there, I think that I put out a weekly newsletter. I got issue stands and policies that will make Michigan better. I fight for education. I think education is the basis for a strong state, a strong middle class. In my district, we're struggling with a water crisis, and I think Republicans talk incessantly about tax cuts. And tax cuts create some issues. And one of the issues we see in the state of Michigan is a devastated Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. And because the NDEQ has such poor funding, we're stuck with the consequences. And the consequences of that is that people's health is suffering because of this. I hope people are looking for a new direction. And as I said early in my comments, it is an embarrassment that the state of Michigan is rated last, given an F grade for government accountability and transparency. The citizens elect representatives to be their voice. Those representatives need to be beholden. They need to be transparent with the people who elect them. And so I have some concrete steps to bring that about. And as I said, I was a school teacher. I taught for 32 years, and I just truly believe that education is the foundational basis for the American dream and for a strong state. And I think under Republican leadership, education has suffered, and we need to turn that tide around.
Well, I know Flint has definitely, made the national news, and they still don't have clean water.
Right.
So it's a disgrace, but we know it's not just Flint, and it's not just Michigan. That's
right. Right. The PFAS crisis is going to spread across the United States. Mm-hmm. We have the unfortunate situation where we're kind of the canary in the coal mine on that situation. Right. But it's not a situation that's going to be only in Michigan. It's exploded here first, and as I said, I really take I just think the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has been so decimated, their funding, that the citizens in the state of Michigan, our health is at risk. We have so many issues with Nestle pumping water out of aquifers, Line 5, the PFAS, the lead, and again, I don't know what level of tax cuts Republicans want, but tax cuts produce results, and the results are hurting the citizens of Michigan's health. They're hurting our educational system. They're hurting our roads. And so, that's what I'm trying to bring about a conscious shift for people to look at. If I watch the TV ads, every Republican candidate is bringing out the standard line. I'm tough on crime. I'll cut taxes. Mm-hmm. Okay, keep cutting taxes, but how do we pay for roads? How do we keep our people safe? How do we protect our beautiful natural resources? How do we educate our children? Nobody likes taxes, but we love what taxes provide. And, right. and there's a disconnect.
Yes, and it's very short-sighted, because ultimately the costs of all those children that are, drank leaded water, that's a lifetime of problems. Yes. That they're going to have. So even if you don't personally care about these people, I mean, you just look at it as a cost thing. That's going to be lifetime. Maybe those children are not. Then they grow up and they're not able to be functioning right. members of society. I mean, it amazes me how short-sighted.
Their future is hedged. Yeah. There's no question.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the great things, one of many that I love about the candidates with the contract is kind of our pledge to election integrity. And one of the things in talking with a lot of election integrity activists that I hear very often is the largest block of voters or of people is non-voters. So I didn't actually find numbers specifically for your district of like turnout. Yeah. Of course, we know the primaries is always much lower turnout than presidential right. elections. But I like to think that candidates like you guys, and this is the best part of this that I've been doing, is meeting people like you and talking to you. And it's so funny. I think Brian would agree. Everyone is kind of on the same page with all of these issues, and the momentum is there. Everyone wants this change. But I think, reaching those people that don't traditionally vote because they feel like it's not going to make a difference anyway, I think that's really key, is getting those people out to vote, and that will flip those numbers in your favor, I think. So.
And I think also one of the things about running has made me very optimistic. I see a lot of grassroots organizations. The community that I live in, Rockford, has a group called Rockford Blue Dots. And they're people, my neighbors, who are energized, are driven, and are passionate about making change. And they see political mechanisms as a way to bring about that positive change. And they start at the neighborhood level. They start with their neighbors, and they educate and they rally. And so I'm very optimistic, as you talked about, getting people to vote, I think is a function of grunt hard work and education.
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to jump in here? Anything, do you know, anyone know the actual voter turnout in recent?
The primary is 20%.
Wow. Yeah, that's just terrible.
Yeah.
I have to confess here that for the last 15 minutes, I've had pixelated noise in my ear. I haven't really heard anything any of you guys said. But my audio is back.
Okay. I'm glad it
looked like a productive conversation. I just didn't know what you were saying.
Oh, that's okay. It was really, really important. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll catch the highlight reel later.
Okay, sure. Yes, you can go back and watch. So yeah, let's see. If it was pivot, yeah, I think it was the 28th district was a pivot county, like I mentioned at the beginning, that did go from Obama to Trump. Let me just verify.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you're right.
So I'm always just fascinated with this because, we hear this in the media, it's so divided, and, that who the Trump voters are. What is your sense of that? I mean, I feel like, especially in Michigan, I know, there are a lot of manufacturing jobs that are gone. And I mean, do you feel like people were just, it was kind of just that anti-establishment vote? What is your...
My gut feeling is that's exactly right. Trump didn't win the 28th. He didn't win the state of Michigan based on concrete plans. I think he won because people were and are disillusioned, disenchanted with the process. Mm-hmm. Again, going back to what David had talked about, I still am very optimistic with seeing grassroots change. The state of Michigan, just at the Supreme Court level, was given the ability to have nonpartisan drawing of districts. That was a grassroots citizen initiative. Mm-hmm. I just think I see so much positive groundswell from citizens saying, okay, enough is enough. We're going to do something about this. So that's where my hope lies. We've got a lot of good energy with individuals going door to door in their neighborhood saying, we can change these things. We're responsible for the state that we build. And I have no, scientific statistics, but that's a wave that I need to ride, especially in the 28th. As I said earlier, I started a lot of my speeches saying, I know it's a Herculean task. My mother-in-law is not going to vote for me. And that's a problem, right? I've been married to her daughter for 30 years. My mother-in-law will not vote for me.
And why is that?
Because I don't have the R by my name.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we need to overcome. And the only way to overcome that is by that grassroots citizens talking to neighbors, citizens moving for referendums to draw nonpartisan district lines, and that's where my hope lies. I think people are energized, they're passionate, and I look for good things.
Yeah, I think we've had so many years of this, sports mentality applied to politics. You're either D or R. And I think that is changing. The numbers are there. The independents are, right, number of people independent are not identifying with either party is rising. And, it's part of why, the other reason I got into doing this, I volunteered with Draft Bernie. I was a Bernie supporter. And then I felt like, they had huge hurdles. They're now Movement for a People's Party, and I'm still very supportive of them and think they're doing great things. But I knew the hurdles that they had to be able to be on the ballot and on every state. So I thought, well, what better way than to just work with something that focuses on the issues and kind of sheds the labels? Because candidates with a contract, I mean, we have Republicans, we have independents, we have Greens, we have Democrats. And because I think, especially when it comes to corruption, both sides, most people will agree, like, yes, we need to get rid of corruption. So anybody want to?
Yeah, on that. So when your previous question, you were talking about Trump voters and who they are. And I think that we've gotten a little bit too comfortable in just declaring who the Trump voters are, and they're this massive poor white people, and that's about it. And yeah, those are Trump voters, but I met Trump voters of every walk of life in this district. And so we're making a real point of never giving up on any of them, because the narrative that people who voted for Trump, the narrative that is winning a lot of them back, is that right now our entire government is just mired in corruption. And he ran to drain the swamp, and all he's done is throw more and more, smellier, rotten swamp things in there on a regular basis.
Point.
And it's
great.
That's
absolutely.
a winning argument for all of us, that we are the people who are now coming in and cleaning it up.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mark, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to give you a chance to jump in here and to make sure you could hear. Any particular issues, like what is most important, and what do you hear most from people that may vote for you? What change do they need the most? Is it you hear single payer, or what are the top things?
So the first talk, the voters I talk to, they're sick of the labels. The labels have to go. They're sick of the D's, they're sick of the R's, they're sick of being labeled progressives, liberals, conservatives. Really, we're all just Michiganders, and that's what I'm getting the most reaction out of when I'm talking to my neighbors up and down the trailer park or across the city or up north in Clare. We're all just Michiganders, and we're all just one people. And that's how I've built a diverse group of people supporting me on my Facebook page and my campaign. And honestly, I'm sick of labeling people as Trump voters, non-Trump voters, Clinton voters, Bernie voters. We're all just one people. Mm-hmm. We should just work on destroying the culture, what you quoted earlier, the sports mentality that it's us versus them. When actually all it really is all of us working towards a better future together.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Because, I mean, the mainstream media, that's pretty much what they perpetuate all the time. You're either watching Fox News or MSNBC, you're this team or that team. And it keeps people divided that might see eye to eye on some things that we can work together and actually change. I mean, even, gun control, which is a huge, controversial thing people don't agree on. Even when you look at that, though, most of the real things that would make change, closing gun show loopholes and, background checks, both sides agree on that. So why did that not get passed?
Yeah.
Well,
powerful lobby.
I was going to say, I think, again, a part of it goes down to money. As Mark said, powerful lobby. and I appreciate the, organizations like Candidates with a Contract, because again, I think it gives it provides some hope to give the power, the sovereignty back to the people who elect it, not the corporations, not, and I'm going to label here, not the DeVos family for my district, but we've got to tackle the election process so that my vote counts as much as a corporation who's funneling dark money to back their candidate.
Right. I
Absolutely.
always use open secrets and go to look, a candidate can say one thing, but you see who's backing them, and that will tell you what they're going to actually do. So Brian, do you want to have some questions, I think, from maybe the Facebook chat? So.
Yeah, I've got one question, actually a couple of questions. First is, should there be a law placing government officials who've manipulated elections, should that be a crime that's punishable by life in prison?
By life in prison, that's kind of a stiff penalty. But you got to go back and forth. Should it be a state law or federal?
Well, if it deals with I think if it deals with a federal election, it's a federal law. A state election is a state law.
Right.
And I think, it's just like, I think we'd have to take it the same way we take manslaughter, murder, or homicide. There's degrees involved here, and it would have to rise to a pretty high order to be life in prison. But it's just like any other crime. It's what's the severity, and the punishment should match the severity.
Right. Are all of you aware? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
I think a key thing here again is to restore the integrity of elections. And we've all talked about, especially you, Kelly, have talked about people don't feel their vote matters. And I think accountability and integrity of elections certainly would go a long way in changing that tide. Life imprisonment, I'll be honest, I don't support that. Yeah. But I do support some kind of imprisonment, sure.
Yeah, last I checked, I believe Brenda Snipes in Broward County still has her job. Are you all of you aware of Tim Canova's case in Florida where they destroyed the ballots? Is everyone?
I am not.
I'm not familiar with details.
Okay, David, you're familiar?
Yeah, I followed the case a little bit. I've been following Tim Canova's career. He's battling some real powerful machine there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So one of the things we're actually working on, I'm hoping it will be added soon, but there's going to be an election integrity kind of pledge that will be sort of added adjacent to CWAC. We met with some election integrity activists, John Brakey, for example, Ray Lutz. And let's see, John Brakey's been doing this for over a decade, I think. But the idea is kind of to have something in place where, so if like what Tim Canova encountered, he at first wasn't really sure, should I, like, this looks funny. We had all this support, and then all of a sudden these numbers don't seem right. But it wasn't until John Brakey kind of stepped in and said, yeah, you need to contest this, and we need to look into it. And so then they had some statisticians come in and say, basically, this is not possible. Like the way this happened when they were, this certain points apart. And then as the last districts came in, it was just a weird anomaly. So, but, Tim's a lawyer, and he had to kind of stop and go, do I really want to fight this? What am I up against if I fight this? So the idea would be to have something in place where a candidate, they sign candidates with a contract, and it's got this election integrity pledge that if there is something like that, that happens, that basically there's a team of people ready. And so, election integrity activists and lawyers that have worked, John Brakey has some people that work, just volunteering. So because I think a lot of times what we see and hate to pick on the Democrats, but after what we saw happen to Bernie, we see it keep happening where a candidate is pretty much, if they're running as a Democrat, and maybe you guys can speak to this, but what I've seen is it seems if they're running as a Democrat, they're ignored. It's media blackout completely. They're ignored. And if they do become enough of a threat, then they're smeared. I don't know if everyone kind of heard the Steny Hoyer tape talking to Levi Tillman. I'm getting the names right, where he's basically admitted like this is what we do to keep you progressive grassroots candidates down. We shut you out, and we're pretty much just want to install our DCCC person there. So having an election integrity pledge and something sort of in place that would be there to fight that, I think it could be very powerful, because maybe that candidate is close and something like happened to Tim Canova happens, then the candidate isn't just out on their own, being called a sore loser. They've actually got people behind them to fight it. So that's the idea.
I have one other question. What do all of you think about public funding being used for primary elections? Or should there be?
I would support public funding to some level. I think there's got to be a formula. I definitely like the idea of some kind of a base funding for elections that hopefully would broaden the pool. It would encourage more citizens to become involved. Mm-hmm. There's no question it takes a lot of money, and so I don't think it should be 100% public funding, but there's got to be some kind of a formula that gives again some integrity and broadens the pool of candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would take it a step further, though. I would say that 100% publicly funded elections is actually a really good thing, but it would have to be paired very carefully with strict and comprehensive campaign finance reform. Because, and the advantage I see here is, rather than, the base is a good idea, but if we said this is exactly how much money you get, you don't get to spend a dime more of your own money or anyone else's money, and no super PAC or outside PAC is going to get involved. So we know exactly how much every single election costs. And then we can say that's how we're going to stop the corruption right in its tracks. That's how we're going to make it so, working people can run to represent working people. Mm-hmm. And I think that might seem pie in the sky, but I think that that's an incredibly laudable goal. And that's something that I would really push for, because I think that that's the surest way to put the end to the swamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, part of why we're doing what we're doing, I mean, this is really small potatoes. This is, we sometimes will get a couple hundred views, but you never know. People will pass that on to their neighbor. But we're doing this with no money. Like candidates with a contract, there's really no money involved. Nobody's funding us. And, really, it doesn't cost anything to get people to the polls. All they have to do is hear your message. And so, while it's terrible that there's a media blackout on a lot of the smaller candidates, there are ways like this, like what we're doing. And I think a lot of independent media is trying to do this to really get these candidates in front of regular people, so they can say, hey, there's that guy. I like that person. So, any thoughts on that?
I agree. Again, I think one of the most, I feel incredibly optimistic in running because of the energy and the passion I see from my neighbors, from grassroots organizations, good people trying to make the world better. And I am just optimistic. I really appreciate all the different organizations, the environmental groups, the League of Women Voters, candidates with contract. These are passionate people who are trying to create a system of integrity and excuse me, a system we can all respect. Sorry.
Yeah, during the primary, I just couldn't believe I was watching, kind of on Facebook and Twitter, all that was coming in that was going on around the country with election problems. And then it wasn't even being reported on the news. So we kind of had to turn to other media, other independent media to see what was going on. And so, it's an interesting thing because, when Trump says fake news, he's not completely wrong because they are blacking out a lot of what's going on and they're focusing on what they want you to focus on.
Yeah. And so you were talking about the money, and one of the things that we've done to break through that, a good example is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez up in New York. She was outraised 10-1, and she won over somebody who was one of the most powerful members in Congress. And that's actually kind of funny because we've been outraised almost exactly 10-1 in our race as well, but we're just in a race with another bunch of Democratic challengers. And it doesn't cost that much money to run a race in what I think is the right way. We've knocked on tens of thousands of doors. We've got hundreds of volunteers. We're making phone calls, sending text messages. We've got a couple of mailers out. I mean, we are dominating in the ground game, and our field operation is amazing because we have a great message. And I think if you got a great message, you're inspirational, you stay positive, then you don't need to raise the hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for all those television ads, because that's where the cost starts to build up. And if you start building your campaign around television ads, you have to raise all that money, and then you go to the sources of corruption to get that money. And again, it's a circular thing. We have to fight back against corruption. So we need to bring down the cost of the elections in the first place.
Right. If we just could cut out that whole, we don't even need it, is the way I see it. I think so many people now, especially millennials, they don't watch TV. And
exactly.
And even a lot of other people, older people, are just fed up with it. They don't watch, they've turned it off. Or if it is on and they hear a political ad, they're tuning it out. They're not paying attention. So it is, when you hear these numbers, the money that's spent, it's just obscene. And especially when you've got people struggling so much, just to have clean water, or, 6 figures of student loan debt or health insurance premiums that are, $1,500 a month. And you hear this, billion or whatever for not billions, but, big money for political campaigns. It just seems so wasteful, like all the things that we could do with that money instead. So yeah, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because this is about $15 for a Zoom account, I believe, and another, I don't know, 10 or something for Restream. So this is like really shoestring, but I think it's pretty cool. And you never know, somebody might see this on Facebook and share it with one person, and then they share it, and it keeps going.
Yep, that's the idea.
Yeah. Again, I think the masses are moving. That gives me hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyone else want to talk about anything specific that you care most about, or I'll just give you the floor?
Well, one of the things in my race, and so I'm a progressive Democrat, and one of the things that I think sets me apart from the field of people in the same category nationally is I put a lot of my emphasis on agriculture, because for me, our agricultural system is our food system, which is the basis that sustains us. And if we look at how we unpeel that, it radiates out into everything that we do. Yeah, if we can take the same money we're already spending in agriculture for subsidies, and let's take that subsidy money and start funneling it towards farmers who are going to do diverse, sustainable agriculture, then we're going to start growing food for our communities to eat. And that's going to be healthier food instead of just the mass processed junk that they're getting. Then those farms are going to require more labor. More people in the farms means more people in our small communities. Right. And those more people in small communities need more services. That means more business opportunities. So we revitalize a lot of our small towns. And then we're also getting away from the monocrop chemical intensive agriculture. So our workers on those farms are going to live safer, healthier lives. The farmers are, the soil is going to be better. The longevity of those farms will be better. You can pass them down from generation to generation. They'll sustain. And we're not going to be destroying our water base because of all the fertilizers and all the pesticides running into, what is the most precious resource on the entire planet, which is our fresh water, and which we are destroying on a daily basis with PFAS and lead and fossil fuel spills. We need to get a handle on it, and we need to have big thinking and solutions that are all encompassing.
Imagine if we took a fraction of all those subsidies that go to corn syrup to put that crap in our food all the time, and took that, speaking of education, as a parent, I really support something called schoolyards. And as a matter of fact, my daughter, when she was younger, we started the school garden. Now imagine if you took money and put that into school gardens where kids, that's not only learning how to grow food, it's also learning science. It can be hands-on science versus sitting in a classroom staring at a piece of paper on a desk. If you actually see something growing, that's pretty cool. So, glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Mark, did you want to bring up anything in particular that's? Can you hear?
I just want to say, Eric, that I agree with David Banach about getting money out of politics. We need to do at minimum a dollar for dollar matching program for small dollar donations from public people, private people. And honestly, I think we need to institute a cap on how much you can fundraise, down to half of at least what the salary for the office is. I don't think you should be raising 2 times, 3 times, 10 times, 20 times what the salary of the office pays just to win the office. Mm-hmm. I agree with David Banach. We need to get money out of this.
Mm-hmm. Right. At some point, I remember when Citizens United passed, I thought, well, at some point you can pour so much money in and it isn't going to matter because people tune it out. So I think that's also a factor.
Absolutely. You drowned out the message so much.
Right.
You don't hear any other message. In fact, you don't even hear your own message anymore. All you hear is negativity. And then you get the citizenry just turning off the television. Every 2 years, just turn them off. We're done listening. We're done watching. All you're doing is tearing each other apart. You're not offering any positive solutions, any solutions at all. You're just mouthing off about your opponent. And that is absolutely abhorrent. It has to end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as far as the dark money and not knowing, I think, that's one of the worst parts. I mean, I think at least we should be able to see who is funding what. And again, I'll mention Open Secrets because I think that's a great place to go and check your candidates that you're interested.
Absolutely. I think in order to gain ballot access, at minimum, you should release your tax return. Any office in Lansing, you should have to release your tax returns to get on the ballot.
Right. And it's not to say that, I don't believe all money, all donations are bad or anything. It's just that I think we should know what, who's funding what. Here's a good example I thought was, so we had there's a candidate, Seema Hernandez in Texas, and she was running against Beto O'Rourke. And people are saying, Ted Cruz isn't going to be for net neutrality because Comcast is, or I forget, I think it was Comcast is giving his campaign money. Well, if you go and look, Beto O'Rourke is taking money from telecom industry too. So is there really going to be a difference there? And maybe he does mean what he says, he's going to change things, but I think it's up to citizens to be aware and watch, follow the money and see what they actually do.
Absolutely.
And that's
public legal disclaimer.
And unfortunately, we also have a situation where, our journalism is kind of failing. And I feel like a lot of that is a lot of work to dig in and find out all this information. Unless you're, a total political junkie like myself, and that's all you do, most people are busy and they don't. And used to be you could turn on the news and catch up for half an hour and find out actual information. I think now it's just an endless, pundits' opinions and arguing, and that's also why people are turning it off.
Yeah. Well, another thing I think that if we really want to do something about this problem, and I think most of us, at least everybody on the feed here, agrees money in politics is a root cause. I think we need to start looking for candidates who are putting forward real solutions that you're going to say, if you think that the problem to our energy system or our climate is that we're burning too much fossil fuels. All right, well then put a plan on the table that you say you'll support. Yeah, and that's one way we can fight back against the lobbyists. That's why we can fight back against the big money. Is that we have to see candidates who are willing to buck the buck, if you will, to put forward a plan and know that it's going to cost fundraising dollars, but it's the right thing. It's what the people need. And if you are a voter and you don't see your candidate putting hard copy or in black and white, this is what I am going to do because that is the problem, then you should not vote for that candidate because they're not going to fix anything.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, well put.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have all on your website, benactforcongress.com. You have policy statements here and your actual solutions. That's great. Do you guys want to also direct people to do you have your own website, or are you Craig and Mark?
Yeah, I have a website, beachforabettermichigan.com.
Right. Okay.
You can find mine at bigmark4senate.com.
And I believe I just heard we have Marcia Squire is watching on Facebook.
Yes.
Hi, Marcia.
She's another CWAC candidate.
Yes, she is.
Running as an independent. Just great.
I think she's running as Green Party.
She was Green and then switched. Last I heard,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because we did an online town hall for her, and I was also very interested. Macomb County is where a lot of my family was from, and that was one of those counties that flipped for Trump, and that was interesting. But we did an online town hall, and the way that works, this is another thing that we can do if you're interested. What we do is just like this. You can promote that you're going to have a panel like this, and then you can send out the Zoom link to regular people so they can actually come on and just ask you questions, which is not something you would see on the news. So if anyone, we also did that for Lisa McCormick in New Jersey, which is another great example of, I think she had like $5,000, that was it. And she ended up getting, I want to say 30, I don't remember the numbers exactly right now, but it was a good bit, 33% or something of the vote. This was against Bob Menendez, but she did amazingly well for like no money. And all it was, social media, and I don't know, maybe things like what we do or other independent media does to call attention to it. But yeah, if any of you guys, you said you're a Luddite, we're happy to help. That's fine. We're happy to help. Like what we do is what you're seeing right here. So it would just be where you would promote it ahead of time and let people know. And you kind of need to, I don't want to say screen questions, but you need to screen participants, because we did one with Bill Sombrello, and we had trolls pop in. We used to be able to just post up a Zoom link. Hey, if you want to come on and ask questions, and that kind of went sideways really fast. So unfortunately,
so one thing that we've done is, I think, to take a really strong stance and to get out there without having to rely on the traditional media. We've done a lot of things like this. We've done a few Facebook Lives, but we've done a bunch of AMAs, which is a really great chance for lots of people to ask questions, right, and to ask detailed questions and follow-ups. The other thing we've done is we've made a big point of organizing town halls, in-person public town halls, where we knock on doors to invite people. We put them in the local newspaper. We flyer the communities and, laundromats, hardware stores, grocery stores, coffee shops, any place that'll let us put them up. And, we go in there and I take every single question that people bring, because I think that the public deserves that. And we don't really have to worry too much about the troll situation like you do online, because when you have an open forum and people have to own their question,
good point.
See a lot of that. But we've had aggressive questioning from the audience, but that's to be expected. As a representative, you should expect your constituents to push you on issues, and you have to answer for it.
Oh,
and that's where growth occurs.
Yeah, I definitely think in person, on the ground is better. But sometimes people are busy, and this is another way for people to also share something. So we fix the troll situation. You just have to be by invitation only.
And Marcia says that she is an independent who was nominated by the Green Party of Michigan on May 5th for the general election.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Okay. So anyone, I guess we'll wrap it up here and just let you guys say what you want at the end here. To anyone that might be watching, you want to get out and vote in just 2 days, right? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll finish with the same thing that I'm right now. I think, because I'm a history teacher, and I look at this moment as a really important time in history. We're going to look back at 2018 and say, did we choose to go down the same path, the path of corruption? Did we allow this to continue? Or did people turn out in numbers we've never seen before and choose democracy? So I really think that 2018, it's corruption or democracy, and it's time for you to choose. And if we don't do something dramatic in 2018, it may be, honestly, it sounds grandiose, but it may be too late to save the system in 2020. So to me, this is the last stand, and we have to be ready to approach it in that way.
Well said.
Yeah, I appreciate what David is saying. I go back to our state is a disgrace in terms of accountability and transparency, and that calls for radical change, as David said. And I believe it. I believe the people are ready. I believe, again, grassroots candidates with a contract, Blue Dots of Rockford, lots of local organizations who are energized and organized to take back the reins and the sovereignty of democracy, and we need that. We definitely need that. And as the other people here have said, I hope that I offer the citizens in the 28th district a powerful, positive message of change, and I certainly appreciate the individuals who make intelligent votes and check out the candidates and where they stand. So,
absolutely.
Mark, did you want to say anything?
I just gotta say that we can't go down the road of same old politics anymore. It's time to elect uncorrupted citizen candidates, average people, big Mark truck driver, teachers, firefighters. It's time to elect common people. We have enough lawyers and
good point.
Just absolutely bought and paid for candidates and office holders in Lansing, and they're not going to work for us unless we go in there and demand they work for us. Right. We just can't afford hindsight in 2020. Mm-hmm. We have to elect the right people now.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Well, again, I just have to say, I love doing this work because I get to meet people like you guys, and that I just know that if all of you could be elected, this country would be better. So we're going to keep fighting for that and doing everything we can, to now through 2020, and who knows, we hope for some victories in 2018 though. So
Absolutely.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for all you do.
You for
We
the
appreciate it.
Okay, if we can do anything else, let us know.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you
Will
so
do.
much.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Have a good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.
Night, guys.